Mr. Gurumurthy, welcome. Always good to have you. We don't hear you often enough as we read you. So it is indeed a pleasure to have you on our platform. So thank you right at the outset. I know you like specific questions, sir. You like speaking in specifics. We've read all the things that you write. So you are a man of detail. But I would like to start with a broader question right now because we've just come through many weeks of turbulence in the alliance formations in Tamil Nadu. The chessboard is finally set for the battle. What is S. Gurumurthy's view of the state of play before this big epochal battle, some would say, for power in Tamil Nadu?
Actually, there is a major shift in Tamil Nadu politics from being personality-centric on both sides. If you look at the last 15 state elections, it has been fought between very mighty personalities on the two sides. Today, it is actually a fight between parties rather than between leaders. The leaders don't add much value to the respective parties. It is the parties which sustain the leader today. This is a very major shift. This is because the ideological expositions which used to take place through the powerful personalities who dominated the Tamil Nadu politics are no more in the picture. So it is more a political battle than an ideological battle today, which it used to be till Karunanidhi was in the scene. So actually the media is not really noticing it. This is really a surprise for me because the leaders used to shift public opinion even on a small matter in favor of the parties which they represent. Today, there is no leader of that kind. Of course, both are good leaders for their own parties, but nothing beyond that.
Are you saying that there is no more any requirement for an iconic figure in politics? MGR is no longer there, even though he is referred to quite often by different political leaders. We are in the post-Karunanidhi and post-Jayalalitha era of politics in Tamil Nadu. Are you saying nobody needs to worry about icons?
No.
The politicians are there, that's enough.
I'm not saying that. I'm only saying there is no icons today. An icon may develop.
Is there space for an icon?
There was, for example,
because there is no shortage of people who are trying to do that.
If, for example, there cannot be a sudden icon. If Rajinikanth was seen as an icon because he was expected, he had created expectations. A large number of people felt that he could deliver us from the two Dravidian parties, which are really mirror reflections of each other, except that ADMK has swallowed the nationalist orientation. The nationalist mainstream in Tamil Nadu is represented by the ADMK. With the result, no nationalist party can really come up. So, from deliverance from these two parties is possible only if a very major nationalist movement develops, or if an iconic leader like Rajinikanth had come. Of course, it was an unfortunate thing that he couldn't make it. I wouldn't say there is no need for an iconic leader. The fact is that there is no one today.
Okay. You've said two very, very interesting, tantalizing things, sir. One, on the nationalistic politics and Hindutva and things like that, which I'll come to in a bit. But since you mentioned Rajinikanth, you are someone who is close to him. You are someone who, through this, very suspenseful few months before he finally decided not to make a explicit entry, you were a person who was commenting on it. You wrote many columns about it as well. And he had your ear. I know you are not going to reveal any privileged conversations with him. I wouldn't expect you to. But give us an inside view, Mr. Gurumurthy, of what happened. Why did the superstar who had given every indication that he was going to make the plunge, what made him finally decide not to?
Actually, no.
You would know that better than anybody else. That's why I'm asking you.
Yes. Actually, contrary to the popular impression, I was not the one who was trying to draw him into politics somehow or the other. This is the general impression that has been created, which is wrong. Actually, I was advising him about how difficult it is to start a party and how a team is needed. No, these are all the areas where he listened to me. And what could be his position vis-a-vis the DMK and the ADMK, what Tamil Nadu needs. For example, the formulation of spiritual politics we discussed for a long time and then he accepted. So these are my areas of interaction with him. Basically, I always insisted that it is such a tough game and he has a very difficult and delicate health to manage. There is nothing like easy politics. Politics is so tough and so stressful and so demanding. And for a man whose BP can go up and come down in minutes, which led to the rejection of his kidney, if it happens again, it would be a problem. So I told him one thing. So far as that aspect is concerned, only his doctor and his family and himself can decide. But outside, the impression created was that I was somehow pulling him into politics. That's not correct. I have been his good friend. And he listened to me all right. But I never forced him. It's an unfortunate thing that his health did not permit his entry into politics. He was so deeply committed to doing something in Tamil Nadu. It's only destiny which played its role. That's all I can say.
Was it a combination of factors, Mr. Gurumurthy, that convinced him, including health, or
No,
you
what
know,
clinched- what
was it
clinched-
also the weight of expectations? Because this void that has existed in Tamil Nadu, and lots of expectations on the superstar to come in and somehow fill that void and be the next towering figure in Tamil Nadu politics. Is that something that overwhelmed Rajnikant?
No, he had gone through the process of evaluating what impact he can make and whether he would be successful in transforming the political scene in Tamil Nadu. On that, he had done extensive work. We have discussed, surveys were done. On that, he had no doubt. But only whether he had the time, because this had been postponed to such an extent. He didn't want to come in the parliamentary elections. After the parliamentary elections, the COVID and other developments took place. So, the time scale he had was very, very short. And his health was definitely not supporting him. These are the two things. Time and health were the two factors that clinched it.
You were not surprised when he finally made the decision.
Not at all.
But were you disappointed somewhere?
No, I was prepared for disappointment. As things were moving in the direction which they were moving, I knew it was not going to materialize. But I didn't want to express my apprehensions in public because that decision which he would take should not be impeded by my own apprehensions.
When Rajnikant finally issued the statement, Mr. Gurumurthy, that famous statement where it dropped like a bombshell because people were expecting him to finally announce when his party is going to be formed, what the party is going to be called. The media was primed and ready for all the coverage, including us, on what Rajnikant's new movement and political party and symbol was going to be like. Out came this 2-page statement from Rajnikant. And I want to quote what you had said when you replied to that tweet. And you basically ended by saying that this is the case. He has decided not to enter politics, but he will have political impact like in 1996. Can you explain that? That's a very, very big thing to say, sir.
I will make 3 points. Only when he said he was forming a party, I was surprised. Because all the talks that we had fell short of the decision till 10th November, if I remember right. On 25th November, when he rang up and told me he was forming a party, I was surprised. It's the other way around. People thought I would be surprised by his scaling
Decision
back.
not to.
Actually, I was surprised by his announcement. But afterwards, when he spoke from Hyderabad hospital about what the doctors were saying, and I said that in fact, when he told me he was forming a party, he was going to announce it on 27th. He said he was going to tweet it at 12:15 and all that. I said, sir, have you thought about it enough? Because I am really worried, because this is a very, very major decision within a short time with your health and things like that. He said, no, I have thought about it. This is my final decision. I was surprised by that development. Actually, when he withdrew, I was not surprised. I was prepared for that, especially after that Hyderabad.
So you still had
incident.
some doubts in your mind whether he would go through with it once he
Yes,
said he was.
particularly after he was hospitalized. I knew it would be not a sustainable decision. But so far as Rajnikant's role in Tamil Nadu politics is concerned, I feel that somewhere he suffers from a feeling that what he should have done, he has not done. And he is basically a nationalist. And he doesn't want this vociferous politics in Tamil Nadu. And of course, corruption and all that goes with the DMK and the ADMK. And so he has an urge inside to do something, which I am trusting. So that's why I felt, in fact, when I speak like that, it's also publicly showing my expectation about him, besides privately talking. I think it will have an impact on him.
Since his decision not to, enter active politics, sir, have you? I'm sure you have spoken to Rajnikant after his statement came out. Tell us a little bit about his mood right now. What does he plan to do going forward? Now there are the weight of expectations of a political party and electoral politics is not there on his shoulders. What are Rajnikant's political plans otherwise?
Obviously, he is very relieved, but he is also sad. You see, it's a conflicting feeling. That he has not been able to do it is what makes him feel sad. But he is not a man who will keep quiet. This is because the inner urge in him is so strong and powerful. So he will not keep quiet. But that he could not act in the manner in which he decided that he would act, and he had always been creating the expectation in the mind of the people that he could act, that makes him sad. This is the conflicting feeling he is suffering from. I interact with him very regularly. So the issue is not whether we always talk about politics, but we also talk about politics.
Rajnikant, just a couple more questions on Rajnikant, and then I'm going to fan out into the other things as well, Mr. Gurumurthy. Rajnikant has a formidable following, huge fan base. I can imagine how disappointed many of his fans, millions of his fans in Tamil Nadu must have been that he's not taking this big plunge. How is he managing that disappointment? Because he's a man who's known to keep in touch with his fans, address them, speak to them. Is he having to spend time now cajoling them and nursing their disappointment that he isn't taking a bigger political role?
Actually, he was one actor who for the last 30 years has politicized his fan club.
Yeah.
No other actor could do it after M.G. Ramachandran. So he had a politically vibrant following. It's not just a fan club. Many actors have fan clubs. But it has no meaning in politics. He had been interacting with him on a very different level, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, and in the sense in which popular appeal will make a person understand what he is. And so the expectation about him was very huge. But I can tell you one thing. I have never come across a person who disappointed such a vast following as Rajini did. The way the fan club understood him. There would have been revolt, there would have nothing. Because they understood that this man was a sincere man. One thing about Rajnikant is that his sincerity and honesty were never doubted. In any other case, somebody had a personal agenda, and things like that. He didn't want even to become a chief minister because of his own health and his own inclinations. And so the interaction between him and his followers was based on an understanding about the man as a man. So that enabled him to tide over what could have been a crisis in any other case.
Given the size of that, I dislike the word vote bank, sir, because I believe that people, vote individually or maybe in smaller groups, but, groups are a reality as far as India's electorate is concerned during elections. Given that this highly organized fan base of Rajnikant no longer have Rajini to vote for as an option, who will benefit from this fan base? Will they all vote for different people? Or will it be someone who they perceive Rajnikant is tacitly supporting? What happens to that fan base? Who benefits from that fan base?
Actually, Rajnikant has left them without any guidance. So it would be like what they were doing earlier. Except 1996 where he gave a call to support, and again in 1998. Afterwards he had stopped giving them guidance. So, one generation of Rajnikant's followers had no guidance at all from him. It is only the previous generation which had some kind of guidance from him. So, they will do only what they think is in the mind of the actor. But unless he says this is what you should do, they are not going to do what people think he can make them do. They will do what they would otherwise be doing.
The BJP has very vaunted ambitions in Tamil Nadu, sir. A great amount of energy being invested in the elections here in Tamil Nadu. You have yourself said that the field is open, but you have also very interestingly said that the BJP's growth here possibly cannot be organic, it needs to be extra organic. Now, we all know that the BJP has quite actively quoted Rajinikanth himself. But can you explain to us how open the field is for a party like the BJP?
Actually, if you look at the Tamil Nadu political scene, it is only the DMK which sustains the ADMK. It is the ADMK which sustains the DMK. Because I have moved with both, I have worked with both, and I intensely study both. So if there is no DMK, probably there will be no ADMK. If there is no ADMK, there will be nobody to fight the DMK. You see, this whole shift, you have to go back to 1973 in the Dindigul election, where I had an interaction with Kamaraj himself. You know, the only political party with which I was associated was the Congress. I was never part of the Jan Sangh or the BJP. Because in Tamil Nadu, any nationalist had only one orientation, that was the Congress. So I used to be very close to him as a student leader. I told him that MG Ramachandran has broken away from the DMK. It is the right opportunity for the Congress to accept him, because MGR himself had declared that he would look to the Kamaraj for guidance. He had not decided to form the party at that time. Kamaraj at that time said both are of the same, the Ure Kuttai, Urna Mattai, that kind of famous statement he made. Yeah. But when I told him, he said, no, this will not work, because we have to divide both and then we have to win. We have 38% votes. Even if MG Ramachandran decides to take away 10% votes, we will be the number one. But I told him, very large part of the Congress votes, 30%, 40%, 50%, I do not know, they are anti-DMK votes. If that shifts to MG Ramachandran, because he may be emerged as capable of defeating the DMK, Congress will slump. That's precisely what happened. The nationalist vote shifted to the ADMK because of MG Ramachandran, and it has not got back to the nationalist parties even today, except partly in 1989, when Mupnar was promoted as the chief ministerial candidate by the joint effort of Rajiv Gandhi and Cho Ramaswamy. In fact, I had a difference with Cho Ramaswamy at that time. So, the Congress never really asserted its position. That would have been the right occasion for Congress to move on, but they again aligned with Jayalalitha, again they got subsumed. So, Tamil Nadu is basically anti-DMK. Unfortunately, that anti-DMK platform, sentiment, emotion, intellectualism is represented only by the ADMK. The Congress has not been able to project, and Congress is now virtually over. If there are 10 leaders, there are 10 groups in the Congress. So the BJP has an opportunity. And contrary to the popular impression that there is a certain sentiment against the Hindu values, if there is any state which is most Hinduized in the country, it is only Tamil Nadu. You know, 1 crore people go to Sabarimala wearing the same black shirt with which they used to abuse Hinduism. Millions of people go to Payani temple. Tamil Nadu has become so theistic. The total number of atheists listed in the 2011 census is 1,279. So you can understand the entire Dravidian ideology is dead. It is only the name, the label that survives. But there is no effort by any nationalist party to catch it up because of the proxy. The ADMK is the secondary. So it is able to divert all the nationalist votes to itself to fight the DMK. So how this conundrum can be resolved by the BJP? It cannot happen in this election. But this election can be a decider. For example, if the DMK is defeated in this election, I don't think the Karunanidhi family will be able to hold on to the control of the DMK. If the ADMK is defeated this time, I don't know whether it will survive as a political party given the complications within that party. So post 2021 elections is the opportunity for both the BJP and the Congress. But situated where it is, the Congress is incapable of taking advantage of this situation. BJP can. This is my assessment.
As far as you said Tamil Nadu is increasingly theistic. Is that one of the reasons why you think that the Hindutva brand of politics and nationalistic politics is an opportunity for the BJP to actually grow here?
See, actually, kinetic Hindutva is not in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, by in religion, in culture, in value systems, in tradition, in superstition. It is completely Hindu. But it is not politically Hindu. Because the political Hinduism was destroyed by the Dravidian movement. It tried to destroy the religious Hinduism also, but it failed. If it had focused only on the anti-Brahmin agenda, it would probably have succeeded. But when it mixed up God and Brahmin together, the Brahmin survived because of God, and God defeated the DMK and associated movements. So it is the fight between God and the Dravidian movement which resulted in the defeat of the Dravidian ideology. So, but how can you transform this godliness into Hindutva ideology is a challenge for the BJP. The Ram Janmabhoomi kind of movement won't work here. It has to be a more positive approach. Tamil Nadu has enormous amount of intellectual resources, moral, cultural resources. Even the NPAs will be the lowest. People will repay the debts in time. People will not, in spite of all the powerful anti-North, anti-Hindu, anti-Brahmin movement that evolved through the Dravidian parties, not a single person was hurt. Such a massive movement. It's because basically Tamil people were cultured. So, you have to make a cultural appeal to the Tamil people. The BJP has to orient itself to a more positive Hinduism, then it will probably work.
Speaking of appealing culturally to the Tamil people, Mr. Gurumurthy, we've seen the Prime Minister recently, we've seen the Home Minister when he was in Tamil Nadu a couple of weeks ago. Both similarly expressed regret that they couldn't, make their speeches in the Tamil language. Is there a recognition of that bridge that you talk about, having to appeal to the culture, the spirit of the Tamil people, the Tamil culture?
No doubt about it.
And is there space for it? Because the BJP is looked at as a Hindi party, but they've got these big ambitions to cross that cultural bridge here in Tamil Nadu.
See, when I used to attend political meetings as a student in 1967, I used to hear the DMK people speaking so beautifully in such attractive language in Tamil. I used to find the Congress people struggling to put together 4 sentences. The DMK won because of the pride of the Tamils. The Tamils wanted an expression for themselves because it's a very ancient culture, it is an ancient language, and that was completely left unattended by the Nationalist Party, the Congress. I have seen Congress people, Tamil Nadu Congress people addressing meeting in English and that is being translated into Tamil. So you can understand how much they got distance from the local feelings, the local culture. The DMK exploited it, of course, quite wrongly, quite wrong purposes. The attraction that people are now beginning to have towards Modi is because he is recognizing the greatness of our culture. It's important. It may even be political, but more than political, it is necessary to bridge the gap between Tamil Nadu and the rest of India, which had developed in the last 30-40 years, unattended by the nationalist forces. I think it's a good strategy, and even if it is a strategy, it's good for Tamil Nadu and the country.
Because the DMK still projects itself as the custodians of Tamil culture, the Tamil language, and constantly project the BJP as this outside Hindi party that is only doing this for political gain and electoral gain.
The DMK's credibility has hit the rock bottom. It may win the elections, but it doesn't have credibility. It limited Tamil Nadu below Vindhyas. Then it limited Tamil Nadu below Tirupati. Then it limited Tamil Nadu to the DMK. Then it limited the Tamil Nadu to the DMK, the Karunanidhi family. You must understand how the Tamil mind has been narrowed down to just one family. If they are going to say, we are going to... I have never seen... in fact, I was talking to a Rajya Sabha member from the DMK. For the first time, having got elected, they wanted to speak to me. I didn't even want to mention the gender of the person. I was talking in Tamil, and that person was talking only in English. So after 5 minutes, I said, you realize that I am talking to you in Tamil and you are talking to me in English. He said, I'm sorry. You are completely anglicized at home. Your Tamil is only a formulation. People understand it. I don't think the DMK can rise on the feelings of the Tamil pride. It's over.
Why do you say that that the Karunanidhi family, stands threatened? You said that the DMK will. Your view is that they may win this election. They're putting up a big fight. There's a lot of anti-incumbency. I mean, there's an anti-incumbency. But do you think that the Karunanidhi family, for them, this election is a fight for relevance and a fight for survival?
100%. If they lose this election, for example, if Jayalalitha is not there and still ADMK is able to win, that will be a huge setback for the family. It will not be a setback so much for the party because the party has given in to the family so completely. It will be seen as the failure of only the family because the family decides everything from A to Z. So it will be very difficult for the DMK, the Karunanidhi family, to hold on to the power in the DMK.
What about the ruling party, sir? As we reach the end of this discussion, I want to just throw this open to you on the ruling party. You've had quite a few things to say. The most recent flashpoint has been the whole Sasikala affair, where she came back with this huge show of strength from Bangalore, and then she decided, not to do it. In your view, sir, in your candid view, why did she decide to step back? There have been many theories. Some people say the BJP managed it. They were the ones who actually, were the puppet masters in this whole thing. They convinced her to step back out of this. What is your view on that?
Actually, Sasikala shot herself in her foot. Once she put the ADMK flag when coming back, she thought that half the ADMK would shift to her. Not a single person, not even the primary member of the ADMK shifted to her. How will she come out? Will she have Dinakaran's party flag to come out? She faced a wall. And so she had no option but to quit politics. Otherwise, she would have to head the part of the DMK, ADMK, which is Dinakaran's party. And so I think she thought that unless she was acceptable to a very large number of the ADMK cadre, she would not enter politics. I think she took a wise decision. I don't think in this anybody could have forced her because she had been expecting to win over the ADMK where she failed. I think that is the primary reason.
You also set the cat among the pigeons, by one of your observations when you said that, about the ruling party, when you said, when your house is on fire, you're not going to wait for Ganga Jal. You can even use sewage water to douse the flames. You were talking about, a union of the AIADMK with Team Sasikala.
Actually, I didn't use those words as mine. I only quoted Arun Shourie. Yes, in 1987, when we were fighting Rajiv Gandhi, we had Chandra Swamy with us. And so the media used to ask, you people are such lily white people, how are you associating with this man? So Arun Shourie said that that is the same remark, that we will have to look at sewage water also to do that. Why this remark came from me, it didn't come voluntarily. Actually, a question was put to me. I was to announce at the end of the Tughlaq meeting that we would support the ADMK for the simple reason that it is not anti-national, not anti-Hindu, not anti-God, not anti-North. So I wanted to prepare the ground for answering that. Finally, I was to say that. When this question was put to me, if Shashikala joins the ADMK, what will you do? So I immediately recalled Arun Shourie and said, maybe I will tolerate it. So that was seen as my remark. On that basis, even Shashikala faction began approaching me, sir, will you do something about it? So I never intended it that way, but it had that effect.
It had a very angry effect actually on both the AIADMK as well as the Sasikala faction, because you were effectively calling one a burning house and the other gutter water. So I wasn't surprised by the reactions you got. Were
actually, even a sewage river called Kuvam River, it doesn't accept it is sewage. It calls itself a river only.
But okay, let's accept that, extending your metaphors, last couple of questions. This burning house that you call the AIADMK, do you think Shashikala is going to have some kind of role wherever this election goes? Because, we've seen in India, our experience has been that you don't need to have political power to wield it. Do you think she still has a role ahead, or is the chapter on Sasikala closed in Tamil Nadu?
I think it is closed. You see, she never had the appeal for the end. In fact, in 2017, when she took over the party as the General Secretary, How many ADMK people virtually came and cried and held my hand, please save the party. Then I took on Shashikala and all that happened later. And many of them, many ADMK leaders believed that I was instrumental in creating the anti-Shashikala ecosystem in the ADMK. 70 to 80% of the ADMK cadre would never have accepted Shashikala. Without a wider acceptability, you can never take over a party and hold. You don't have the skill like Karunanidhi. So, limited skills, limited scope, limited appeal, she had no option. So, I don't think she can play a positive role. The best thing she has done for herself, for her party, and for Tamil Nadu is to have quit politics. I think she will keep it up, and she has no option but to keep it up.
One final question, Mr. Gurumurthy, is what is your sense of the kind of reputation and perception that the Prime Minister enjoys in Tamil Nadu? Politically speaking, there is a great effort by the BJP. The BJP, like you said, can only grow extra organically. The BJP says it does not need any icons because their biggest superstar icon is the Prime Minister himself. How is he perceived in your view in Tamil Nadu?
See, there was a sustained attempt to promote anti-Modi sentiments in Tamil Nadu for almost 2 to 3 years. But I think it began subsiding in 2019. Afterwards, that momentum against Modi could not be sustained. Afterwards, the developments that are taking place, even the DMK which was leading this anti-Modi sentiment, it has withdrawn from that position. It was a promoted idea. So, to me, a very large section of people across the political spectrum, except of course the ideological adversaries, have now begun looking at Narendra Modi as a performer, as a person who is beyond all normal things that pull down a politician, corruption, favoritism, this, that and the other. And so he is seen as a very unique person. If this gets intensified, and in this election, if he is able to build that rapport with the people, I think he will be able to play a very major role in shifting Tamil Nadu politics, because they also need an icon to shift. Otherwise, this process will take its own time. I think Modi has a great opportunity to shift to Tamil Nadu politics.
The opportunities in Tamil Nadu politics with just weeks to go for the election to actually happen makes this one of the most tantalizing votes that India has seen in a very long time. Thank you, Mr. Gurumurthy. It's been a pleasure. We will continue to hopefully hear you and, of course, read your words in the run-up to this big election. Mr. S. Gurumurthy, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.